Hello, and very happy to see you on our channel again. Today we give you a piece of breaking news from British news magazines. Prince Harry's Meghan Markle claim exposes his tone-deaf ignorance. Harry positioned himself once more for ridicule. Prince Harry interviewed a real-life Black Lives Matter hero, but couldn't resist furthering brand Meghan by mentioning her during the piece. It's at times like this I honestly wonder who Prince Harry is being advised by, or if he's even being advised by anyone except his wife, Meghan Markle. I don't know of a PR company in the land which would encourage him to make the comments he did about unconscious bias and how he knew absolutely nothing of the term before he walked a day in Meghan Markle's shoes. Seriously, Harry? Harry knows nothing of the hardships and biases ordinary people face. In an interview conducted for GQ magazine with Black Lives Matter activist Patrick Hutchinson, Prince Harry positioned himself once more for ridicule by showing how little he knows of the world outside his pampered royal bubble. Sitting there in his $14 million mansion, he claims his upbringing shielded him from the uncomfortable side of life, which includes unconscious bias. On that front, I absolutely agree. Prince Harry, like most of the rest of the royal family, lives a very insulated and pampered life. Speaking to Mr. Hutchinson, Harry commented, "Once you realize or you feel a bit uncomfortable, once the onus is on you to go out and educate yourself because ignorance is no longer an excuse. And unconscious bias, from my understanding, having the upbringing and the education that I had no idea what it was. So far, so good. There isn't a lot there with which I would disagree." Both Prince Harry and his brother Prince William lead very privileged lives, and in recent years we've seen Prince William in particular look to break through the wall of privilege as best a future king realistically can. It wasn't long before Harry managed to shoehorn his wife, Meghan Markle, into the discussion. Even though Prince Harry was speaking with a bona fide hero who actively stepped up and potentially saved the life of another man along with a group of his friends, it didn't take Prince Harry long to find a way to slip Meghan Markle and her supposed hardships into the discussion. That's right. While speaking with one of his British subjects, an ordinary man from Wimbledon who put himself in danger to do the right thing, Prince Harry decided to say the following on unconscious bias. "I had no idea it existed. And then, sad as it is to say, it took me many, many years to realize it, especially then living a day or a week in my wife's shoes." Really, Harry? And how do you figure that? This interview shows how tone-deaf Harry is on social matters beyond his scope. I noticed that he didn't really expand much on the unconscious bias that he's seen his wife face. Maybe it was during one of her shopping sprees where she spent $1 million of taxpayers' money on a single year. Or was it during their time seeking out a multi-million-dollar mansion in an affluent and primarily white, may I add, neighborhood? As if mentioning Meghan's hardships wasn't bad enough, he then decided to begin rambling on about how he and Meghan called Ashley Banjo during Britain's Got Talent. You talk about unconscious bias to start with, which you and I both know is a huge thing globally. But yes, it exists in the UK as well. But I think with the Ashley Banjo stuff, we, Meghan and I, spoke to him shortly after that whole process, that whole moment in his life and diversity's life. You're talking to a man who risked his own well-being for the welfare of another in a pressure cooker of an environment on the streets of London. And you think picking up the phone from your safe haven in California warrants a mention? If Prince Harry wants to really experience unconscious bias, there's one way he could do so. If Prince Harry wants to really experience what it looks like, he could drag his backside off the couch in his mansion, take his private jet back to the UK, and spend a few days living with someone like Patrick Hutchinson. To even think it was a good idea to shoehorn Meghan Markle, a privileged duchess who lives a life of luxury, far from anything a regular person will ever know, into a discussion with Patrick Hutchinson is another PR blunder to add to the long list that Prince Harry has committed since walking away from his royal support team. If the inconvenience of spending time with one of the taxpayers who funded your wedding and your wife's shopping spree doesn't appeal, there's something else you could do, Harry. Shut up and listen. Don't talk about the hardships experienced by the wife of a royal prince. Don't talk about telephoning a candidate on a television show. Just pipe down and learn from someone who's out there in the real world, living with unconscious bias every day. Here we go again. Meghan's a victim again. Funny, she wasn't a victim when she was 15 sitting on the fence out by Buckingham Palace. I didn't get to go to London at 16, nor private white girls' school, or Paris as a Soho House hostess, wink wink, with Mark Anderson from Soho, whose yacht she's pictured on. She's only the victim of a racial incident when it suits her and Oprah and Obama and Michael. Wake up, Harry. Perhaps you would care to itemize a list of those dreadful things you claim Meghan goes through. This will, of course, be impossible for you because Meghan hasn't led a life of suffering filled with racial discrimination. On the contrary, she's had an expensive education, a career as a bit part actress that allows her to be worth $3 million, and is now married to a royal rich terp. Her house was gifted to her. She spent over £1 million on clothes, etc., and she travels on private planes. She's living the life of Riley. I will add that the reason they can't focus on one is that they want to be able to switch it up to whatever's popular at the moment. Black Lives Matter is not an organization our family would ever support. We have traditional values, and what chaos it's bringing worldwide is a crying shame. And it has nothing to do with the color of people, but everything to do with the disregard for family life, law, and order. And what protest should look like is not what Black Lives Matter is bringing to the table. To be quite honest, I would not support anything of Harry and Meghan's ventures. The trust isn't there for either of them, nor do they bring anything of value to the table. I'll stick with my go-to organizations, and I haven't canceled Netflix yet, but I'm heading in that direction. These two are really quite the act. It's been a long time since I've seen someone trying so hard to stay in the limelight, but offering absolutely nothing. It's been a long time since Harry has had an opportunity to talk with his family about Meghan's distracting behaviors. That time is nowhere. Do you think his family will use this time to bring Harry back into the fold? I wish. It would be good if he could sit down with his grandparents and calmly explain his past actions and why he felt he needed to rush things so much. To tell them what was so awful about his upbringing that he has to run away from everything he used to hold dear. To be honest and open about how things have been for him in California and whether his life there is bliss he hoped for or whether he feels trapped and alone. To apologize for the mess he left behind and tell them that he hopes to make amends. In fact, to eat a bit of humble pie and admit, for once in his life, that he's made a mistake and wants, as far as possible, to put things right. He also needs to do the same with his father, William, and Kate. The old adage, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Whether things will ever be the same again, no idea, but whatever does happen, it must be better than the current situation. At this stage, it matters little whether Harry is blissfully happy in California with Meghan and Archie or miserable as sin and wishing he hadn't run away. What matters is that he admits mistakes were made, maybe on both sides, and starts to put things right between himself and his family. If Harry wants to continue with his life in the US, fine, but he needs to know that if Meghan wishes to carry on with her outspoken campaigning, then she must cease to call herself the Duchess of Sussex. And Harry has to give up his title too. No Royal Highness either. They are on their own, although, of course, Harry will always be a prince. If things are going pear-shaped for him in the US and he wants to return to the UK, with Archie of course, then unless Meghan wants to return with him, it will be up to the lawyers to sort that out. But after being the target of a narcissist, I wonder if he's capable of seeing that so much of their behavior has been wrong. He may have absorbed Meghan's view. It's everyone else. That's the problem. I suspect he has been brainwashed, a member of the cult of Meghan. But I hope when he's away from her, as per the question, he will be able to see more clearly and objectively and be able to swallow his pride a bit and even acknowledge some mistakes were made. How about you? What do you think of Prince Harry's claim that Meghan Markle has exposed his tone-deaf ignorance? Please let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share with your own followers. And as always, subscribe to the Sussex Daily News team for all the latest news on the royal family, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.